Welcome to The Sarah Scoop Show. It's time to get the scoop with Sarah.
Hi everyone, I'm Laura LaFrate, and I'm from America's Next Top Model, Cycle 18, British Invasion. It was an accident, a complete accident. I never really even thought of modeling, but my mother found a local pageant that had a reward, and the winner would get $5,000 towards their college fund, basically. So she just signed me up, and she's like, "All right, you're gonna do this." And I wasn't even comfortable at that, and I was just like, "Okay." And I ended up winning the whole thing. And a local agency around here, approached me, and that's how I started. I grew up actually with like the very first seasons, and I thought it was really cool. And I used that kind of as a platform when I did become like an actual model, but I never registered on the show. They scouted me through my Facebook, actually. They're just like, "We see that you have been modeling. Would you be interested in doing this?" Originally, they wanted me for, I believe it was Cycle 16, but I was in South Africa at the time. So I came back, and when I came back, I was like, "Hey, like I am back. I would be interested." And then they had me go into the auditioning for Cycle 18 instead. Yeah, and that whole process was like, at first they just like, you just send a couple photos and, "Okay, well, we'll get back to you if we're gonna send you to LA." And then about a month later, I get a call like, "Hey, we already booked your flight. You're going to be casting for America's Next Top Model season 18. And I said, "Oh, that's great." And I was like, "How long is it?" And they're like, "Oh, it's going to be about 2 weeks." And I said, "Okay." So I flew there, and I was with a group of about 200 girls all together, a hotel. And I didn't know anyone, and I wasn't allowed to talk to my parents. Like, everything was super confidential. And you have to take all these tests, like a bunch of like old school, just like, I mean, tests to basically like grade your sanity. Some were like, "Here, this is when you're all alone," and like similar questions. And then then when we all realized that we were on the show, like it was the middle day of casting, they said, "All right, so whoever did not make the show, we're sending you directly to the airport, and those who have are going straight to the first episode." So I was on the bus. I mean, it was all kind of just like a shock. It unfortunately, it's like when it comes to the show, like you have to be hush hush. So you're dealing with everything internally. You can't tell anybody or express it. So I was just kind of, it was a whole different world for me. I never really expected it to happen, but when it did, I was just kind of like on autopilot. I mean, I was a model beforehand, and so was pretty much every other girl that was on my season. Modeling, they usually, like when you first come to a new country, they shove you in a house full of 10, 15 girls. So I was okay with that aspect. It was just when it comes to the show, if you don't have cameras on you, you can't speak. There's like a whole bunch of guidelines. You can't be watching TV, you can listen to music, you can't be texting on a phone. I mean, like a lot of stress outlets were taken away, which made it so like creating stronger bonds with people was hard because you were more forced into it and it wasn't a natural process. The girls that you did end up creating some connection with, like me, it was like Annalise and Sophie, like we would just keep talking and talking and talking. But I mean, just you'd end up just having outbursts, really. That was the only way to get rid of it, and a lot of people don't see that behind the scenes, like we would have these outbursts and then we'd be like, "So sorry." Like, like we're just under like this very unique situation, and I don't mean that towards you, but that's not entertaining to see. God, well, the problem was is that with our cycle 18, we had suburban LA, then we went to Canada, and then Macau, and yeah, so we had 3 different locations, and for the most part, we would wake up at around 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, and then we have to do a interview with the complete casting and set people, and they're just like, tell us about your day before. So you'd have to do that. That took it took around an hour. The problem is that you had to say it in first person, like it was actually happening. So they're like, so tell us what happened like right now. And we're like, oh, okay. So yeah, I saw this. And they're like, can you say see? Like, oh yeah, okay. So we see this going on. I'm like, oh, can you do it again? And then we're like, all right, so we see, can you do it a little bit more energy? We see, so we just kind of like look like we're all crazy and just completely out of our element. And then after we finished that, we would end up being stuck on a bus, like everything mic'd up, like for the whole day. So we would travel anywhere from 2 to 5 hours to location. And if the cameras weren't on us, we weren't allowed to speak to anyone. It was called on ice. So, I mean, sometimes like our day would start off and from 7 o'clock to 3 o'clock in like the afternoon, we'd say one word to anyone. Yeah. So, and then after that, then we would get debriefed for what we were doing that day. And then we would do that. And after you're done with whatever challenge or photo shoot, you're sent right back to the house where we're all supposed to be. And then you're just left with your thoughts. You get to talk to your family once every 2 weeks, pretty much. And there wasn't really much for us to do as like a creative outlet or stress reliever. So a lot of us just kind of, put ourselves in our own world. My best friend, I couldn't tell her that I was on the show. And so like I came back and she's like, were you? I was like, I can't tell you, but yes, I was. And she came back. I was actually pretty traumatized. It was just a lot. I was 20 years old. It was my first experience of that kind. I didn't leave the house for 6 months, I believe. Yeah, it was just like a complete shock being sent back into reality when everything was kind of like done for us and it was regulated for us, and then to have like that freedom to make my own choices and do whatever I want again, I kind of sat there. I watched 2 episodes, and my embarrassment and like just complete disgust of the things that came out of my mouth, I couldn't watch anymore. Yeah, some things were edited and cut out of context. So there's some things that it makes it seem like I said it, but I didn't really say it. Unfortunately, Tyra went to Harvard around the same time, like she was going for business, like to get her business degree around the same time as our cycle. So we really only saw her very briefly, or times that she had to do a scene in the house or judging. Other than that, we didn't have any contact with her. I got really close with Kelly. She's great. She's fantastic. I can't say enough about Kelly. Mr. J, not so much. He kind of was like on the same basis, like if cameras aren't around, like I'm not going to be around. But Mrs. J hung out with us, and I connected a lot with Nigel because to screw with him with the heights and him being afraid of different stuff. I still talk to him over Instagram. I'm probably going to do a shoot at home again soon. Yeah, I am live with Annalise a couple weeks ago, and I talked to Sophie through WhatsApp. I hope I can see her while I'm here in New York, and I'll go have a coffee with her. And yes, I mean, they're just great people inside and out. I couldn't have picked a better top like 3. We were all just happy for each other. There's no malice, and I just wish the best for them, and I love that we can still continue such a strong friendship after all these years. It's like a 50-50. Would I mean, like, I'm okay to do it because I know what to expect. I would just like the show to come back more to modeling and not so much as the reality drama. Like, I really want people to see more towards like what a model does and their day-to-day life and what it really takes to, make it in the industry, which isn't about fighting with other girls, because that's not what happens. You usually make very strong friendships with people from all different backgrounds. And it's actually a really beautiful thing. And I feel the show tries to create this like really competitive, kind of nasty environment. And that's not how it is at all. The instant fame was not liked. I mean, because I actually got a lot of negative feedback from a lot of people. I received death threats at my house. Yeah, it was a bit overwhelming. Just the thing is that you're cut and pasted in a way on the show, which makes you a different persona completely. And people, when they watch you, they think that's you. And they don't know. So people would message me as if they were somebody who's been in my life 20 years. Like, I can't believe you did this. Like, you're horrible. Like, you need to think about your actions. And it was a bit overwhelming for me. And I ended up skipping the country for the last 7 years. Oh, I mean, I actually, like, since I did skip the country, like I said, I've lived in Mexico the past 7 years. I ended up being a skydiver and motocross rider, and I did a bunch of extreme sports. I still do. And I started modeling in Mexico. I've done anything from Vogue, Marie Claire. I've done Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week. But for me, like, at this age, like, my passion right now has become writing. I just published my first kid's book, Don't Grow Up Too Fast. Please Don't Grow Up Too Fast. It's about a little girl and her dog growing up through life. And I want to continue my writing career while also doing shoots on the side. But for me, it's a very demanding career when it comes to travel and all of your time. And I found a man that I'm going to be marrying pretty soon. And I really enjoy just being creative more in my now than doing like all the photo shoots and that lifestyle. My biggest advice would be, don't have that be your solo focus. I know the show tries to be that if you're not 100% model, then you're not a true model. No, all the models I've worked with throughout the years, throughout the places, education is key. I mean, even if you can't go to a full-time college, you can do online, like find a degree. Use your brain in different aspects and paths in this life. Because, I mean, it's easy to find a pretty face, but to have that substance behind it gives the respect that makes you stand out. And I can't stress that enough for little boys, little girls all over the world. Like, you're so smart and you're so beautiful. Now combine the two and make it even more powerful.
Thank you for watching The Sarah Scoop Show. Head to sarahscoop.com for more.